Hi, you're watching Investor Insights, and in this video I just want to make a statement, and the statement is I want deflation and I want it now. And to most of you it's going to sound stupid, it's going to sound probably ludicrous, but let me elaborate. I've made a video questioning whether or not deflation is that bad recently, and I've had time to think about the whole concept, and this lecture that Peter Schiff gave recently, it makes perfect sense. As you probably know, deflation is a state of negative inflation, so you have falling prices. Now, immediately the word Japan comes to mind, and even I've been saying that it's been mired in recession, but it's not a condition, it's not mired by anything. Deflation is actually a very good thing, and deflation is the way that things always head when you allow capital markets to function freely. So, take a look at technology. Technology, because of the speed of the innovation, it's the inflationary nature of that sector is magnified just by the sheer pace of new innovation. You look at mobile phones, you look at computers, you look at tablets, look at anything that's technological. Whatever comes out this year, next year, it's half the price. And the subsequent year, it's obsolete. Like, you can just pick it up from eBay for nothing. I mean, imagine a world where inflation was running everywhere, including technology. You buy a computer, you're never going to sell it, and you're never going to upgrade, because the model that comes out next year is going to be twice as expensive. In fact, buying your own computer, the same model next year is going to cost you more. You're never going to chase new models or upgrade or do anything. I mean, imagine if you buying an iPhone 4 this year is going to cost you twice as much next year to buy the same phone. Damn, that's crazy. What would that make the cost of the iPhone 5? It's just going to be, it's a thought that your mind cannot compute, because common sense tells you that things are deflationary in nature. If you buy a car, the next year, the same model, albeit built next year, will be cheaper, and that's deflation. When it comes to money, deflation is a great thing for money. I mean, if you've got falling prices, it means that the same money has more purchasing power tomorrow than it did today. That means that if you put money underneath your mattress, given any length of time, and that money actually becomes more valuable. What a great concept. What a great thing to have. Imagine going shopping and your grocery bill in 6 months' time being slightly smaller than it is today. What's the downside? What's to be upset about? It's great. The only rebuttal that I've had about deflation are your so-called assets. For example, your house. Now, if house prices fell because the market forces, free market forces, make the value of things fall, well, it makes perfect sense, because first of all, a house is technically not an asset because it doesn't pay you anything. It's a liability. If you have a mortgage on it, it's a double liability. because you not only have to pay off your mortgage, which is a cost, you also got to put money in it to just actually keep it. I mean, houses need maintenance and repairs. They have to be cleaned. You need to mow your lawn. So all these things are input costs into a so-called asset. So by you putting in all these costs, by you upgrading the house, by you repainting the house, by you doing renovations to the house, you're going to add value to it. So in due time, by you spending all this money on it, it's gaining value. And even in the real world, apartments depreciate. They just do. There's nothing about an apartment that appreciates. I mean, the building is a year older, it's 1 year older to being pulled down, whatever. So accountants, if you have a rental property, will depreciate the value of the house and will depreciate the value of your apartment, and they write that off your tax. So falling prices is part of your everyday existence. Now, people will argue that the house depreciates, but it's the land that appreciates. Doesn't matter. Things are just falling in price anyway. But I think what's most important and your biggest consideration with deflation is the fact that your biggest asset, or if you actually work, should be your superannuation, your retirement fund. And your retirement fund, you contribute to it, your employer contributes to it, and even if you don't invest it, you give it 20, 30, 40 years, and it's going to have a huge increase in purchasing power without even giving it a thought of investing it. And then what happens if you invest it? It's going to generate a return, and that return is going to be compounded by the simple fact that the money has more purchasing power already. So that's just like a double triumph. You no longer have to worry about your savings being evaporated through inflation. And as I've said in the other video or other videos, the American government and every other central banker wants to instill the belief that inflation is a good thing. You want an increase in prices so that your assets rise in value. But that's a lot of baloney. They want inflation, and they want inflation to be sky high so that their debt is forgiven. I mean, if you owe $17 trillion and there's no way you can pay that back, all you do is you print money until the debt has no meaning. I mean, if everybody's going out there spending $1 million for a can of Coke, then 17 trillion is absolutely nothing. And the creditors are the one that's going to be screwed because they're being paid back in a currency that's worthless. This is a real eye-opener. And I think you should really take a step back and think of the term deflation more as a happy concept, a positive concept, rather than a negative one, such as what the policymakers and the central bankers want you to believe. I cannot think of too much downside to living in a society that is deflationary. If free markets were allowed to function, so that, for example, there's no monetary policy, there's no quantitative easing, there's no manipulation of the markets, deflation would just take over, because that is the way that things have always been in free markets.